Battlefield 5 has a cheating and hacking problem. There's been a marked uptick in conversation within the active community online, discussing cheaters, hackers, and just in general their effect on the game since its launch. And myself, having quite a large Twitter following and social media presence, I've definitely noticed an increase in the amount of people sending me messages about these cheaters in their server that they're playing on, accompanied in many cases with just very blatant evidence of them running riot. For the most part, this issue is contained to the PC platform, but there are scenarios that I've seen that exploits are being used on consoles as well. Now, up until this point, I don't believe I've actually encountered a cheater in-game yet. If I have, then I didn't realise one was there, but I am counting myself lucky because at some point in the future, I will encounter one. The odds of that happening in any online multiplayer game are quite slim, but the chance is there, so at some point you will see one. The setup that DICE and EA is using for Battlefield 5 is almost unknown. There's just a very few details out there that we can really be sure of. And that's by design. Give too much evidence out publicly and the hackers and cheaters will take that information, they'll run with it, and you can be pretty confident that another third-party program or a tweak to it or an exploit will be up and running within days. There's clearly a market for this kind of stuff. And as much as I cannot wrap my head around it at all and why you'd ever want to cheat in a video game, it's popular enough that it's become a larger talking point within the active community. The other week, this clip rose to the top of the Battlefield 5 Reddit page, and just so you know, this is the only clip I'm going to feature in this video of a cheater because I don't want to give them any kind of platform for exposure whatsoever. These kind of players just don't deserve it. But this one made me really laugh because it's quite funny, and it made me angry at the same time, and I'll explain that in a second, but this cheater was using an aim hack to kill people almost instantly across the map. And so to combat them, their own teammates surrounded them and blocked them in, meaning they couldn't move. A few seconds later, the attacking enemy team rolled up with a vehicle and roadkilled the entire group, killing the cheater in the process. It's perhaps the finest moment of teamwork I've seen in Battlefield 5 so far, everyone pulling together to achieve a common goal. But the fact that the teammates of the cheater had to do this in the first place is what made me angry. Why should normal, rule-respecting players of Battlefield 5 sacrifice themselves in order to stop this cheater? And only stop them for a few seconds, I might add, because you can be sure the cheater just respawned and got right back on with what they were doing beforehand anyway. Because you can't call on an admin of the server to come in, spectate, and then kick or ban the player from ever returning to the server, you have to continue your round, even after reporting them, and continue to be subjected to their cheat or hack. Either that, or you have to quit the server, meaning the cheater continues to get to do whatever they want, and you have a diminished gameplay experience. For me, that's totally backwards. Genuine players coming second to the cheaters. So currently, what is it that EA and DICE are doing to combat this kind of scenario? What are they doing to deal with cheaters? Well, for that, we can take a look at some of the public responses from one of the developers working within the anti-cheat realm, Merson316. He's only left a few comments with regards to the anti-cheat effort for Battlefield 5 and what's really happening behind the scenes, so it is still very limited information. Back at the end of 2018, I posted this tweet, stating at the time I hadn't encountered a cheater yet, and was it really that big of a problem because I hadn't been exposed to it, so I didn't know. Merson replied with the following: "Cheating is constantly being looked into with progress being made every month in all regions. However, please secure your accounts with TFA. Serial cheaters often use multiple compromised accounts to get back in the game fast after being banned." TFA stands for two-factor authentication. It's a system where you can double protect your accounts by requiring a single-use code to be entered to access your account. This is pretty standard across online accounts now for nearly every service that you can imagine, and EA has it available for you to use on Origin as well. If you don't have this enabled and your password isn't sufficiently secure, you're at risk of having your account stolen and sold to some cheater for a few bucks, so they can continue their antics on another account. The message before that, however, progress being made every month, is hard to see results for since DICE and EA don't issue feedback on cheaters reported through the system that's set up for you to use. Merson alludes to this in another reply on the same day. A player was speaking about Battlefront 2 and how seemingly a hacker has been running riot since launch. You may see the same name in-game, but it takes 1 minute to change personas on 2 accounts. They want you to think it's the same account, as that goes along with their narrative. Not using this as the grand excuse for having cheaters in our titles, just spreading some information that might make things easier to digest. A lot of this comes down to better ban communication from our side, but privacy laws make this tricky. If a cheater does get banned, but obtains a new account almost instantly, and that could be a stolen account that wasn't TFA protected, they can change the in-game name of the account very simply. They can take the name of the banned account, put it in the new one, and Bob's your uncle. Launch the game under the new unbanned account, activate your cheats, and hey presto, you're back doing the same thing under the same name. They're using a different account that hasn't been banned, but they're using the same name, so obviously you don't realise that anything has changed. Merson rightly states that this is not the excuse for having cheaters in-game, but I do think this plays heavily into why legitimate players are becoming more and more frustrated by these instances where hackers don't appear to have been dealt with. Where there's no feedback to you, the person who reported the cheater, that they were found to be cheating or not, the situation becomes even more frustrating. It could be that this serial cheater keeps moving accounts and changing the name to match each time, working the system and staying ahead of being totally banned. But you're unaware if your previous attempts to ban the cheater through whatever account they were on at the time was successful or not. So it's this constant running battle. What can really be done to help solve an issue like this then? Well, the responsibility does lie with EA and DICE to keep their game as clean as possible and implement solutions to root out cheaters and hackers, so obviously there's quite a bit of work to do there. Being proactive rather than reactive is a goal that I think the team needs to be pushing for, dealing with hackers before they do so much damage to matches that players just become frustrated. I'm no expert on this topic, but I think there's got to be a way for EA and DICE to implement measures into Battlefield 5 that could detect third-party programs, scripts, exploits, injections running in the background, whatever, and either kick or ban the account running them. Instead, right now it appears, and again, we don't have all of the information available, so we can only draw conclusions based on what limited information we actually have. The only real way to try and stop a cheater is to report them directly to EA and DICE, and their account is then checked by the team. That's reactive, not proactive. But I would always encourage people to report a suspected cheater regardless. No matter how many barriers are put up in a video game, there will always be ways for someone to exploit a gap and start taking advantage of it. Reporting a suspected cheater allows the team to properly check the account out and come to a decision about whether to ban it or not. So I've dropped a link down in the description to a forum post about how you can report suspected cheaters in Battlefield 5. Perhaps another thing that EA and DICE could do is, if an account is banned, they're stopped from changing the account's persona, that online ID that you see in-game on the leaderboards, so cheaters cannot move it to another account. This would help players understand that the account did get banned, but it doesn't stop a cheater getting their hands on another account under a different name and then just going at it again. It would, however, stick a thorn in the cheater's narrative. It stops them from continuing to cheat under the same name and deceiving legitimate players. Until this situation is really taken under control and the appearance of cheaters is subdued, I'd argue that Battlefield 5 cannot move forwards as a serious competitive shooter. We know that Battlefield 5 is a little bit more hardcore, a little bit more tactical, and if you look at the latest limited time game mode, Squad Conquest 8v8, in organised matches, that could be considered competitive. All games have cheating and hacking issues to deal with for sure, I don't dispute that, but the grasp the developers have on the situation in their own games appears to be greater than that of DICE and EA at the moment. It makes the game look inferior to others on the market when videos keep cropping up of players using damage hacks, aimbots, and God mode. It's honestly not something that should be a regular occurrence for a AAA title, especially one that's currently the leader of the franchise. Older titles suffer as time goes on, as official support doesn't happen there anymore, but Battlefield 5 does have official support from a development studio that in the past has implemented better and more effective methods of banning cheaters. DICE needs to find a more effective solution to the issue, or the legitimate player base is going to grow more and more annoyed as time goes on. This topic in general is particularly difficult to discuss because of the lack of information that we really have on it. I am interested, however, to hear your thoughts and opinions. Whether you're a PC player dealing with these cheaters from time to time, or every single match as it might turn out, or a console player who doesn't have to deal with them that much at all. Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel with notifications switched on so you don't miss any of my future videos, and a big thank you for watching today. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.